Princess stood at the observation window of her ship, the radiant throne, and looked down at the blue planet below. Earth. Such a small world. Such an ordinary sun. She had traveled across half the galaxy for this, and she could not understand why. Her father, the Emperor of the Dominion, had given her this mission as a punishment. She was certain of it. While her brothers commanded fleets against the Outer Rim pirates, while her sisters negotiated trillion-credit trade deals with the merchant guilds, had been sent here, to this backwater, to meet with humans. Humans. The word meant nothing to the greater galaxy. They had achieved faster-than-light travel barely a century ago. They controlled only a handful of systems. Their technology was primitive, their military was laughable, and their culture was so young that the history books had not even bothered to record their existence until 20 years ago. Tier 7 civilization. The classification sat in his mind like an insult. There were Tier 2. The gap between them was like the gap between a starship and a stone axe. "Your Highness," her chief advisor, Lord, spoke from behind her. "The human escort has arrived." Did not turn around. Escort singular. "Yes, Your Highness, one small shuttle, one pilot." She finally turned, her silver eyes narrowing. They were tall and slender, with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Skin currently showed deep purple, the color of annoyance. They send one person to greet an imperial princess. It appears so. Do they not understand protocol? Do they not understand who I am? Lord's expression remained neutral. He had served the royal family for 300 years, and he had learned to keep his thoughts hidden. "Perhaps their customs are different, Your Highness." "Their customs are primitive." Walked past him toward the docking bay. "Let us see what manner of diplomat they have sent, probably some aged minister, some retired general they no longer need." She was wrong. The woman who stepped off the human shuttle was young, shockingly young. She could not have been more than 30 standard years old, which was barely adulthood by standards. She wore a simple dark uniform with minimal decoration. Her hair was black and cut short. Her skin was brown, her eyes were dark, and her face showed no expression at all. She carried no visible weapons. She wore no jewelry or symbols of rank. She looked, to his eyes, like a junior officer who had been sent to deliver a message and nothing more. "Your Royal Highness," the human said, and she bowed. Not deeply, not the way a proper diplomat should bow to royalty, just a small nod of the head. "I am captain of the United Earth Naval Command. I have been assigned to serve as your liaison during your visit to our system." Stared at her. A captain, not an admiral, not a minister, not even a senior commander, a captain. "Captain," repeated the word slowly. "You are a captain." "Yes, Your Highness." "And you are my liaison." "Yes, Your Highness." Turned to Lord. Her skin had shifted to a deeper shade of purple, almost black, the color of true anger. "They mock us." Captain's expression did not change. "I assure you, Your Highness, no mockery is intended. I was selected for this assignment because of my experience with interstellar diplomatic protocols." "Your experience?" Laughed, and the sound was cold. "How much experience can you have? You are a child. Your entire species is a child. You have been traveling between stars for 100 years. My family has ruled the Dominion for 15,000. Still the human's face showed nothing. No fear, no shame, no anger, just calm, steady patience. "You are correct, Your Highness. We are young. We have much to learn from elder civilizations such as yours. That is why your visit is so important to us." Studied the human woman for a long moment. There was something strange about her, something that did not match her humble words. The way she stood, perhaps, balanced and relaxed, but also ready, like a soldier who had seen combat and had learned to always be prepared for the next fight. But that was ridiculous. What combat could a human have seen? They had no enemies. They were too small and too weak to have enemies. "Very well," said at last. "You will show me to my quarters on your planet. I assume you have prepared something appropriate for a person of my station. We have prepared the finest accommodations our world can offer, Your Highness. I doubt they will meet standards, but they will have to do. Captain bowed again, that same small nod. If you will follow me. As they walked toward the shuttle, Lord fell into step beside. He spoke quietly in the language that the humans could not understand. Your Highness, may I make an observation? Speak. The human captain. There is something unusual about her record. Her record. I reviewed the data our intelligence service has gathered on human military personnel. Captain graduated at the top of her class from their naval academy. She has served in 3 separate combat deployments in something they call the Outer Rim conflicts. She has received their highest military honors for valor. Frowned combat deployments, against whom humans have no significant enemies. Against each other, Your Highness. Humans fight among themselves, frequently. How barbaric. Indeed, but my point is this. Captain may appear young and unimportant, but the humans have sent one of their most decorated soldiers to meet you. I do not think this is an insult. I think this is something else. Considered his words as she boarded the human shuttle. The interior was plain and functional, nothing like the elegant vessels she was accustomed to. Captain took the pilot's seat and began the launch sequence with quick, practiced movements. Something else, repeated quietly. What do you mean? Lord watched the human captain carefully. I mean that perhaps we should ask ourselves why they chose her specifically. What message are they trying to send? Looked at Captain. The human woman's attention was focused on her controls, her face still calm and unreadable. A novice thought, that is what she is, a novice from a novice species. There is no deeper meaning here. There is nothing to fear from these humans. She settled back in her seat and watched the stars through the shuttle window. She was very, very wrong. The diplomatic talks lasted for 5 days and found every moment unbearable. The humans asked for nothing. They demanded nothing. They simply sat across the table with their calm faces and their patient eyes, and they talked about peace, cooperation, mutual understanding, cultural exchange. The words were so empty, so meaningless that wanted to scream. What did they want? Every species wanted something: power, territory, resources, trade advantages, protection from enemies. But when tried to discover what the humans truly desired, she found nothing. They seemed genuinely happy just to be talking with an elder civilization. It was infuriating. They are hiding something, she told Lord on the 3rd night. They were alone in her quarters, a large suite in the human capital that was comfortable but laughably simple compared to palaces. No species is this humble. No species is this content with nothing. Perhaps they truly are as primitive as they appear, Lord suggested. Perhaps they do not yet understand how the galaxy works. Perhaps, but was not convinced. On the 4th day there was a state dinner. Representatives from 12 different civilizations attended, all of them with interests in this sector of space. They were the most powerful, of course. The humans were the most numerous, and then there were the others, including the had dealt with the before. They were a predator species, evolved from pack hunters on a harsh world of endless winter. They stood 8 feet tall, covered in white fur, with 4 arms and mouths full of teeth designed for tearing flesh. They had conquered 17 star systems. They hunted sapient species for sport. They feared nothing and no one. Except apparently humans. Noticed it during the dinner. The ambassador, a massive creature named, kept glancing at Captain, not with hunger the way usually looked at smaller species, with something else, something that looked almost like caution. And when Captain walked past the delegation to refill her drink, every single one of them went silent. Their eyes followed her, their bodies tensed, and when she was gone they relaxed as if a threat had passed. After the dinner, found alone on a balcony overlooking the human city. The night was dark, and the lights of the city stretched out below them like a field of stars. "Ambassador," she said, "may I join you?" His great head turned toward her. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Princess, you honor me." She stood beside him and looked out at the city. Millions of humans lived down there. Millions more in cities across the planet. Billions in total. Such a large population for such a young species. "You fear them," said. She did not ask, she stated. Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was lower than before. "You have not read their history." "I have read enough. They achieved space travel a century ago. They have fought small conflicts among themselves. They have no significant achievements." "You have not read enough," turned to face her fully. "Do you know what the humans call their home planet? They call it Earth. It means dirt, soil, ground. They named their world after the thing they walk on." So that is strange, is it not? Most species name their world after concepts of beauty or power or importance. The called your home radiance. We call our world the hunting ground. But humans, they named their world after dirt, made a sound that might have been laughter. Because to them, the ground is what matters, the territory, the land they stand on and the land they will take. Frowned. "You are being theatrical." "Am I? Let me tell you what I have learned about humans, princess. Let me tell you what my intelligence service has gathered." Leaned closer and his voice dropped to a whisper. "Humans are pursuit predators. Do you know what that means? They do not have claws, they do not have fangs, they are not fast, they are not strong, but they can walk forever. On their home world they would chase prey across great distances, not running, walking, following, never stopping, never resting. Until the prey collapsed from exhaustion, and then they would kill it. That is primitive hunting," said. "We have moved beyond such things." "Have you? Consider this. The humans fought a war among themselves 70 of their years ago. They call it World War II. One faction, one small nation, attacked another and killed millions of people. Do you know what the humans did?" Said nothing. They did not make peace. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender until the enemy was completely destroyed. They invented new weapons specifically to burn cities to the ground. They dropped atomic fire on civilian populations. They hunted down the leaders of the enemy faction for years after the war ended. Years, princess. They built entire courts of law just to execute the people responsible. They passed the memory of this war to their children and their children's children. They built monuments to make sure no one would ever forget. Straightened to his full height. That is what humans do. When you hurt them, they do not stop. They do not forgive. They do not forget. They will chase you forever. They will find you, and they will end you. Felt something cold touch her spine, but she pushed it away. "You are afraid of their primitive weapons, their atomic fire. The Dominion has weapons that make atomic fire look like a candle flame." "I am not afraid of their weapons." His 4 eyes fixed on her with terrible intensity. "I am afraid of their will. Read their history, princess. Read what they did to each other. Then ask yourself, what would they do to us?" He walked away, leaving alone on the balcony. She looked down at the city of lights. Somewhere down there, Captain was probably sleeping peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams humans dreamed. They are theatrical, told herself. They always have been. There is nothing to fear from these humans. They are primitive. They are weak. They are just a young species trying to find their place in the galaxy. But that night found it difficult to sleep. And in the darkness of her room, she wondered if she should have listened more carefully to the warning she had been given. The alarm came at midnight. Was pulled from uneasy sleep by Lord's urgent voice. "Your Highness, you must wake. There is an emergency." She was on her feet immediately, her body moving before her mind was fully awake. Centuries of royal training had prepared her for moments like this. "What is it? An assassination attempt?" Worse. Lord's face was pale, his skin shifting through colors of fear and worry. "The swarm has entered Dominion space. 3 border colonies have already fallen. Your father orders you to return immediately." The name struck like a physical blow. Every spacefaring civilization knew they were not a species in the normal sense. They were a collective, a hive mind, a swarm of billions of creatures that existed for one purpose, to consume. They traveled through space in living ships made of organic matter. They landed on worlds and devoured everything. Plants, animals, people, even the soil itself. When they left a planet, nothing remained but bare rock. No one had ever defeated the in direct battle. They were too numerous, too adaptable, too relentless. The best any civilization could do was slow them down, sacrifice border worlds to buy time, and hope the swarm would eventually move on to easier prey. "How long until the Radiant Throne's jump drive is ready?" demanded. 12 hours, Your Highness." "Then we wait." But waiting was not so simple. 2 hours later, Captain arrived at its quarters. The human woman's face was still calm, but there was something different in her eyes, something harder. "Your Highness, we have a situation. A splinter group of the swarm has changed course. They are heading for Earth." Felt the cold touch on her spine again, stronger this time. "How many?" "Approximately 200,000 bioships." 200,000. The number was staggering. The entire fleet numbered less than 50,000 vessels. 200,000 bioships could consume a world in days. "You must evacuate," said. "Your people must flee." Captain shook her head slowly. "We don't run, Your Highness." "You don't understand. They cannot be stopped. Not by your primitive weapons, not by anyone's weapons. They adapt. They evolve. Every tactic that works once will fail the second time. The only strategy is to retreat and sacrifice." "That is your strategy." Captain's voice was quiet but firm. "It is not ours." She turned and left without another word. Stood in stunned silence. Did the humans not understand what they were facing? Did they truly believe they could fight and survive? She ordered Lord to take her to the Radiant Throne immediately. From orbit, she would be safe. From orbit, she could watch whatever foolish stand the humans attempted. But when she reached the observation deck of her ship, she saw something that stopped her breath. The orbital platforms around Earth were changing. What she had thought were communication relays were unfolding, revealing massive weapon arrays hidden inside. What she had thought were cargo stations were releasing swarms of fighter craft by the thousands. And from beyond the planet, from the asteroid belt where they had been waiting in silence, came the human fleet. Not dozens of ships, not hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Ships of every size, from small attack craft to massive carriers bristling with weapons. They emerged from hiding like wolves emerging from a forest, and they took formation around Earth with perfect precision. "They were hiding," whispered. "All this time they were hiding their true strength." Lord stood beside her, his face showing pure astonishment. "Your Highness, our sensors are detecting weapon signatures we have never seen before. Kinetic accelerators capable of firing projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Directed plasma arrays operating at temperatures beyond our theoretical models. And," he hesitated, "nuclear weapons. Thousands of nuclear weapons." They would use nuclear weapons in their own orbital space. "It appears so, Your Highness." Captain's voice came over the communication channel. "Princess, I recommend you move your ship to a safe distance. The battle is about to begin." Could not speak, she could only watch. They arrived like a living storm. 200,000 bioships, each one a creature of nightmare, with shells of hardened organic matter and weapons that grew from their own flesh. They descended toward Earth with the mindless hunger that had consumed 1,000 worlds. And the humans attacked. Not defensively, not cautiously. They attacked with savage fury, with coordinated precision, with tactics that seemed insane until realized they were working. Small wings of human fighters would race toward the swarm, drawing groups of bioships away from the main force. Then larger ships would appear from unexpected angles and tear those groups apart. When they adapted to this strategy, the humans shifted to another, and another, and another. The battle was chaos, and the humans moved through the chaos like they had been born for it. "They are not fighting like any military I have ever seen," Lord said. "They are not defending, they are hunting, they are treating thee as prey." The hours passed. The fell by the thousands, by the tens of thousands. Their adapted defenses were overwhelmed by the sheer variety of human weapons. Their numbers were whittled down by endless attacks from every direction. And through it all, Captain remained on the communication channel, her voice calm and steady, coordinating her ships with the precision of a master conductor leading an orchestra of destruction. When it was over, not a single bioship remained. 200,000 enemies, annihilated, completely, utterly. The debris of their bodies burned in Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Stood at the observation window, her skin cycling through colors she could not control. Fear, amazement, and something else, something she had never felt before. "Respect." Captain's voice came over the channel one final time. "Princess, the threat has been neutralized. We are now broadcasting the battle data to the main collective. They will understand the message." "What message?" There was a pause, and when spoke again, there was something cold and ancient in her voice. "This world is not food. This world bites back." The days after the battle were strange and quiet. Did not return to her father's empire immediately. She told herself it was because the radiant throne needed repairs, because the jump drive had been affected by the electromagnetic pulses of the battle. These things were true, but they were not the real reason she stayed. She stayed because she needed to understand. Captain met with her on the third day in a small office overlooking the reconstruction efforts. Human ships were still collecting debris from orbit, still clearing the remains of 200,000 enemies from their sky. They worked with efficiency and without celebration. The battle was over. There was work to be done. "You fought well," said. The words felt strange in her mouth. She had never complimented a lesser species before. "Thank you, Your Highness." "How did you know? How did you know to prepare? The change direction without warning. They do not announce their targets." Was silent for a moment. Then she said, "We didn't know they were coming here specifically. We just knew they were coming somewhere, eventually, so we prepared." "For how long?" 60 years. Since we first detected them in the outer arm of the galaxy, since we first understood what they were. 60 years. The humans had been building their secret fleet for 60 years, waiting for a threat that might never arrive, waiting with the patience of hunters in the snow. "Your weapons," said. "They were beyond anything in our estimates. We believed your technology was primitive. We believed your military was weak." A small smile touched his lips. "We know what you believed. We let you believe it." The words hit like cold water. "You deliberately deceived us. We deliberately showed you what we wanted you to see. There is a difference." Leaned forward slightly. "Your Highness, the galaxy is full of predators, the hunt for sport, the consume everything. The merchant guilds devour economies. Even the Dominion, with all its culture and beauty, built its empire on conquest. We are a young species. We have no allies, no protectors, no history of power. If we showed everyone our true strength, what would happen?" Considered the question. "Others would see you as a threat. They would unite against you." "Exactly, so we hide, we smile, we ask for nothing. We let the galaxy think we are harmless and we wait." "Wait for what?" "For the day when we don't have to hide anymore. For the day when we are strong enough that no one would dare to challenge us." There was something terrifying in those words, something patient and relentless and utterly certain. Had met ambitious species before. She had met aggressive species, warlike species, species that burned with the desire to conquer. But she had never met a species that planned in centuries, that waited with such perfect stillness until the moment was right. "The ambassador told me something," said slowly. "He told me that humans are pursuit predators, that on your home world you would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. That is true. He told me that you do not stop, that you do not forgive, that you hold grudges across generations. Also true. He said he was not afraid of your weapons, he was afraid of your will. His expression did not change. Ambassador is wise. Stood and walked to the window. Below, human children were playing in a park that had been damaged by falling debris. Workers were already repairing the damage. Life continued. The battle, she said. I watched it from my ship. I saw your tactics. You did not fight like any military I have ever studied. You did not form defensive lines. You did not protect your positions. You attacked constantly from every direction. You took risks that should have been suicidal. But they weren't suicidal, were they? No, they weren't. Turn to face the human captain. Because you understood the better than anyone else in the galaxy. You understood that they expect their prey to defend, to retreat, to sacrifice. You gave them something they had never faced before. You gave them a species that hunts back. Nodded slowly. They are not evil, Your Highness. They are not cruel. They are simply predators acting according to their nature. But so are we. The difference is that humans have learned to be patient. We have learned to watch our enemies, to study them, to understand them completely before we strike. And when we strike, we do not stop until the threat is ended. You killed 200,000 of them. We killed a splinter swarm, a tiny fraction of their total numbers, but now the main collective knows what happened. They know that this world is not worth the cost. They will go elsewhere, find easier prey, and they will never return here. You are certain of this. I am certain that they understand consequences. We have made the consequences of attacking humanity very clear. Thought about her own people. They had built their empire over 15,000 years. They had conquered through superior technology, through cultural absorption, through economic dominance. They were proud of their civilization, proud of their achievements. But had they ever faced a true challenge? Had they ever fought an enemy that could not be negotiated with, absorbed, or bought? They had never attacked the core worlds because the Dominion had always sacrificed its borders, always given the swarm easier prey to chase. The humans had done something different. They had said no. They had stood their ground, and they had won. I must ask you something, said. Your ships, your weapons, your tactics, they were all designed to fight but they are not the only threat in the galaxy. The weapons you use today, they would work equally well against other enemies, against the merchant guilds. She paused. Against the Dominion. Captain met her eyes without flinching. Yes, Your Highness, they would. You have been preparing to fight everyone. We have been preparing to survive. There is a difference. The words hung in the air between them. Understood now why they were afraid. It was not the weapons. It was not the tactics. It was the simple, terrifying truth that humans planned for everything. That they trusted no one. That behind their humble smiles and peaceful words, they were always watching, always calculating, always ready. They were not prey pretending to be predators. They were predators who had learned to wear the mask of prey and had no idea what they would do next. 3 weeks passed before finally left Earth. In those 3 weeks, the galaxy changed. The first news came from the border territories. The swarm, which had been advancing steadily for centuries, had stopped. Not just stopped, they were retreating. For the first time in recorded history, the greatest predators in the galaxy were moving away from claimed space, moving away from any trajectory that might bring them near human-controlled systems. The second news came from the Dominion. Ambassador himself delivered the message to the human government. Who had never bowed to any species, who had hunted across 1,000 worlds without fear, were requesting a formal non-aggression treaty with Earth. Not demanding, requesting. The terms they offered were generous to the point of humiliation. Watched these developments from her quarters on the radiant throne, and she felt the old certainties of her life crumbling away. Before she departed, She had one final meeting to attend. The High Predator had traveled to Earth personally, something that had never happened before. The ancient creature wished to speak with Princess before she returned to her father's court. They met in a private chamber, just the two of them. The High Predator was ancient beyond measure, her white fur streaked with, her 4 eyes clouded with age but still sharp with intelligence. She had led for 300 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. "You still do not understand," the High Predator said. Her voice was like stone grinding against stone. "I can see it in your colors. You are confused. You are uncertain. You think perhaps the humans were lucky. Perhaps they made mistakes. Perhaps it will not happen again." Said nothing. The old creature was right. "Let me tell you a story, Princess." The High Predator settled her massive body into a sitting position. "When I was young, barely 100 years old, I led my first hunt on a world called Four. The prey was a herd animal, large and slow, easy to catch. But there was one creature among them that was different. When we attacked, it did not run with the others. It turned and faced us. It fought. One creature against a hunting pack. Yes, and it lost, of course. We killed it, but before it died, it wounded 3 of my hunters. One of them died from those wounds." The High Predator's eyes fixed on. That creature knew it could not win. It knew it would die, but it fought anyway because that was its nature, because it would rather die fighting than die running. "The humans are like this creature. The humans are worse, because the humans do not just fight, they remember, they plan, they prepare, and they pass their knowledge to their children." The High Predator leaned forward. "Do you know what happened to the herd on Four after we killed the one that fought back?" "You hunted them all." "No, we left. We never returned to that world, because we understood that if there was one creature willing to die fighting us, there might be others, and the next time we might lose more than one hunter." The High Predator's voice dropped low. "That is what the humans have done. They have shown the galaxy that they will fight, that they will not run, that attacking them will cost more than anyone is willing to pay." Thought about Captain, about the calm patience in her eyes, about the hidden fleet waiting in the asteroid belt for 60 years. "They are not afraid of human weapons," the High Predator continued. "They have faced weapons before. They adapt. They overcome. But they cannot adapt to human will. They cannot evolve a defense against persistence, against a species that will chase them across centuries, against enemies who never forget and never forgive. And your people, you could destroy humanity if you wished. Your fleet is larger, your technology is superior. Yes, we could win a war against them, but at what cost? How many would die? How many worlds would we lose? And even if we destroyed their military, even if we burned their planets to glass, some of them would survive. Some of them would hide, and they would remember. They would pass the memory to their children and their children's children, and in 100 years or 1,000 years they would come for us." The High Predator stood slowly, her joints cracking with age. "They understood this after one battle. We understood it after watching that battle. I wonder how long it will take them to understand." She left alone with her thoughts. An hour later, Captain arrived to escort the princess to her ship. They walked through the corridors of the human government building, past guards who nodded respectfully, past officials who barely glanced at the alien princess in their midst. At the docking bay, stopped and turned to face the human woman. "I misjudged you," she said. "When you first came aboard my ship, I thought you were a novice, a child sent to insult me. And now, Your Highness, now I understand that you were exactly what your people meant to send. A soldier who has seen combat, a survivor, a reminder of what humanity truly is." Captain smiled and for the first time saw something behind that calm expression. Something old and patient and infinitely dangerous. "We're all novices, Your Highness. We've only been in space for 100 years. Extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting and farewell. "Give us another 1,000, then you'll see what we can really do." Looked at that outstretched hand, such a simple gesture, such a small species, such a young civilization. And yet they were fleeing. They were asking for peace. The entire galaxy was watching this small blue world with new eyes. She took the human's hand. It was warm and strong and steady. "I will tell my father what I have seen here," said. "I will tell him that humanity is not a Tier 7 civilization to be ignored. I will tell him that the classifications are wrong. All of them." "Thank you, Your Highness." "And I will tell him one more thing," held the human's gaze. "I will tell him that for the first time in my life I have met a species that frightens me, not because of what you have done, but because of what you might become." Captain released her hand and stepped back. She stood at attention as the Princess of the Dominion boarded her shuttle. And as the radiant throne jumped away into the vast darkness between stars, looked back at the small blue planet one final time. Earth, a world named after dirt, a world of pursuit predators who had learned to walk upright, a world of creatures who remembered their enemies forever. She had come to that world expecting to find primitives, children, novices playing at civilization. She had found something else entirely. And as the stars blurred around her, Princess of the Dominion finally understood what it meant to feel small.